I'm pregnant, Iris. Pregnant.
Oh no, oh no, oh no.
Who's there?
We just want to talk. Please, we need your help.
You two have no idea what kind of trouble you're in. This isn't a game.
In the bustling city of Kaduna, where the streets never sleep and the air is always alive with music and laughter, lived a young heiress named Julia Crown. Julia was the daughter of Chief Crown, one of the wealthiest men in Nigeria. She had everything she could ever wish for: money, fame, and freedom. Julia loved to party. Every weekend, she would dress up in the most glamorous outfits and hit the hottest clubs in town. She was known for her wild lifestyle and carefree life. People admired her, envied her, and some even feared her. One night, at a high-energy party in a glittering club called Club Infinity, Julia danced like there was no tomorrow. The music was loud, the lights were flashing, and the drinks were flowing. She danced with many people, laughed with strangers, and lost herself in the night. The next morning, she woke up in her luxurious penthouse, her head pounding and her memories fuzzy. She shrugged it off, thinking it was just another wild night. Weeks passed, and Julia began to feel strange. She felt tired all the time and had weird cravings for burgers and pizza at odd hours. One morning, as she was about to go out for a shopping spree, she felt dizzy and almost fainted. Her best friend, Iris, suggested she take a pregnancy test. Julia laughed.
Me? Pregnant? Impossible.
But just to be sure, she took the test. When the little stick showed 2 pink lines, she screamed so loud the whole penthouse shook. Iris rushed in.
What happened? Is everything okay?
Julia, wide-eyed and panicking, waved the test around.
I'm pregnant, Iris. Pregnant.
Iris gasped.
Oh my days, who's the father?
Julia's face fell.
I don't know.
Iris's jaw dropped.
You don't know. Julia, this is serious.
I know. What am I going to do?
Julia wailed.
My parents will kill me. They want me to marry a nice, respectable man, not have a baby with a mystery father.
She exclaimed, pacing the floor.
You can't hide this forever. When your parents find out, they'll go ballistic.
Julia sank onto her plush velvet sofa, burying her face in her hands.
This can't be happening.
Iris sat down beside her, putting a comforting hand on Julia's shoulder.
We'll figure this out. But first you need to see a doctor to confirm the pregnancy and find out how far along you are. And then, we'll have to think about how to tell your parents.
Just as Iris finished speaking, the penthouse door swung open. Julia's parents, Chief Crown and his wife, Anna, walked in, their faces glowing with joy from their recent trip to Dubai.
Julia. Iris. How are you, my darlings?
Chief Crown boomed, his voice full of warmth and happiness.
Dubai was wonderful. We brought back so many things for you, Julia.
Julia plastered on a smile, her heart racing.
Welcome back, Daddy, Mummy. I missed you both.
Anna beamed, hugging Julia tightly.
We missed you too, my dear. You look different. Is everything all right?
Julia forced a laugh, glancing nervously at Iris.
Of course, Mummy. Just a bit tired from all the books.
Chief Crown chuckled.
Our little smart princess. Well, it's good to be home. We have much to discuss about.
The words hit Julia like a ton of bricks. She could feel Iris's eyes on her, silently urging her to stay calm.
Yes, Daddy, but first, let me help you with your bags.
As Julia and Iris carried the bags into the luxurious penthouse, the tension between them was palpable. They needed a plan, and fast. Once her parents were settled, Julia retreated to her room with Iris.
We need to tell them soon.
Iris whispered urgently.
You can't keep this a secret for long, and you need to find out who the father is.
Julia nodded, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders.
I know. I'll make an appointment with the doctor tomorrow. And then, we'll figure out the rest.
That night, Julia lay awake in her bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with a million thoughts. The next morning, Julia woke up with renewed determination. She had made an appointment with Dr. Daria, a renowned gynecologist, and was ready to face the truth. She dragged Iris along for moral support, and the two of them headed to the hospital. The hospital was bustling with activity, the sterile smell of antiseptics filling the air. Julia's heart pounded as they approached the reception desk. She gave her name, and the nurse directed them to the waiting area. As they sat down, Iris tried to lighten the mood.
You just think of it as another adventure, like that time we snuck into the VIP section at that concert.
Julia managed a weak smile.
Yeah, except this time the stakes are a bit higher.
Soon, her name was called, and she was led into Dr. Daria's office. The doctor was a kind woman with a reassuring smile. After a brief examination and some blood tests, she confirmed what Julia already knew.
Congratulations, Julia. You are indeed pregnant, about 8 weeks along.
Julia's head spun. 8 weeks. That party at Club Infinity. The blurry memories. She thanked the doctor and hurried out, her mind racing. As they were about to leave the hospital, Julia heard a familiar voice. Her mother's voice. She stopped in her tracks, her heart leaping into her throat.
Thank you so much for your understanding, Mrs. Denise. I'm sure your son will be just fine.
Her mother was saying, her voice warm and soothing. Julia's eyes widened in panic. She motioned for Iris to stay put and ducked into the nearest room, which turned out to be a storage closet. As she hid behind shelves of medical supplies, she could hear her mother's voice growing closer.
Oh no, oh no, oh no.
Julia muttered to herself, her pulse racing. She spotted a nurse's uniform hanging on a hook and, in a moment of sheer desperation, slipped it on over her clothes. She took a deep breath and opened the door a crack. Her mother was now talking to a nurse right outside the closet. Julia's mind raced, and she decided to go for it. She stepped out, walking briskly and confidently, trying to look like she belonged. As she made her way down the corridor, she felt a strange mixture of exhilaration and terror. Just as she thought she was in the clear, she bumped into someone, almost losing her balance.
Whoa there.
A deep voice said, steadying her. Julia looked up to see a tall, handsome man with dark eyes and a curious expression. She muttered an apology and hurried past him, her face burning with embarrassment. She didn't stop running until she was out of the hospital, Iris hot on her heels. Once they were safely outside, Iris burst into laughter.
I can't believe you just did that. You looked like a real nurse.
Julia couldn't help but laugh too, despite the craziness of it all.
Desperate times, Iris. Desperate times.
As they caught their breath, Julia glanced back at the hospital entrance. The mysterious man she had bumped into was standing there, watching her with an intrigued look on his face. She quickly turned away, grabbing Iris's hand.
Let's get out of here before my mom sees us,
she said, dragging her friend towards the car. Julia and Iris returned to the penthouse, still giggling over the day's antics. Julia changed out of the nurse's uniform and tried to act as if everything was normal. The rest of the day passed in a blur of nervous energy as she did her best to avoid her parents and keep her anxiety at bay. As evening approached, the smell of her mother's beef stew and rice wafted through the penthouse. Julia's stomach turned, but she forced a smile and joined her parents at the dinner table. Chief Crown beamed at her.
Julia, you seem quiet today. Is everything all right?
Julia nodded, picking at her food.
Just tired, Daddy. Lots on my mind.
Anna watched her daughter closely, concern etched on her face.
You haven't eaten much. Are you sure you're okay, dear?
Julia tried to respond, but the sight and smell of the food were too much. She bolted from the table, barely making it to the bathroom in time to vomit. Her parents exchanged worried glances and followed her. Julia was leaning over the sink, her face pale and sweaty. Anna rushed to her side, her maternal instincts kicking in.
Julia, what's wrong?
Anna asked, rubbing her back soothingly. Julia couldn't meet her mother's eyes.
I'm fine, Mummy. Really,
Anna's eyes widened in realization.
Oh my God. Julia, are you pregnant?
Julia's silence spoke volumes. Anna's hand flew to her mouth, and she staggered back, nearly fainting. Chief Crown caught her, his face a mask of fury.
Pregnant?
He roared, his voice echoing through the penthouse.
Julia, is this true?
Tears welled up in Julia's eyes as she nodded.
Yes, Daddy. I'm pregnant.
Chief Crown's face turned a deep shade of red, and he clenched his fists.
This is unacceptable, and you don't even know who the father is.
Julia shook her head, sobbing.
I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't mean for this to happen.
Chief Crown's eyes blazed with anger.
You have 1 hour to find out who the father is, or else I will disown you and cut off all your support. You will be on your own.
Julia's heart sank. She knew her father was serious. The room spun around her as she tried to process the gravity of the situation. She had 1 hour to solve the biggest mystery of her life, or she would lose everything. Anna, still reeling from the shock, looked at her husband with a mixture of fear and concern.
Chief, please, let's not be hasty. There must be another way.
But Chief Crown was resolute.
No, Anna, she needs to learn responsibility. 1 hour, Julia. You better start thinking.
With that, he stormed out of the room, leaving Julia and her mother standing there in stunned silence. Julia's mind raced. How could she possibly find out the identity of the father in just 1 hour? Iris, who had been eavesdropping from the hallway, rushed in.
Julia, what are we going to do?
Julia took a deep breath, wiping her tears.
We need to go back to Club Infinity. Maybe someone there remembers something.
Iris nodded, her face determined.
Let's go. We don't have much time.
Julia and Iris sped through the bustling streets, making their way to Club Infinity. The neon lights of the club flickered in the distance, and Julia's heart pounded with a mix of fear and determination. They parked the car and hurried to the entrance, where a burly security guard stood, arms crossed.
Excuse me.
Julia said, trying to sound confident.
We need to get inside. It's urgent.
The security guard raised an eyebrow.
Club's closed until tonight. No entry.
Julia groaned, then pulled out a wad of cash from her purse, thrusting it into the guard's hand.
Please, we really need to get in. It's a matter of life and death.
The guard looked at the money, then back at Julia, and shrugged.
All right, make it quick.
They slipped past the guard and into the empty club. The remnants of last night's party lingered in the air, and the place felt eerily quiet. Julia spotted the club owner, Mr. Tom, at the bar, reviewing some paperwork.
Mr. Tom.
Julia called out, rushing over.
I need your help.
Mr. Tom looked up, surprised.
Julia Crown, what brings you here at this hour?
Julia quickly explained the situation, her voice tinged with desperation.
I need to see the CCTV footage from a few weeks ago. The night of the big party. Please, it's important.
Mr. Tom scratched his head.
CCTV footage, eh? Well, all right. Follow me.
He led them to a back room filled with monitors and recording equipment. Mr. Tom pulled up the footage from the night in question and fast-forwarded until they saw Julia dancing and mingling with the crowd.
There.
Julia said, pointing at the screen.
That's me.
They watched as the footage showed Julia dancing wildly, then being approached by a man wearing a baseball cap and a mask. The man held her close, leading her out of the camera's view. Julia clutched the chair for support, her mind racing with possibilities. Who was this masked man, and what had happened that night?
I can't see his face.
Iris said, squinting at the screen. Julia checked her watch. Only 40 minutes left. Panic surged through her.
Mr. Tom, can you make a copy of this footage? I need it.
Mr. Tom nodded and quickly transferred the footage onto a flash drive.
Here you go. Good luck, Julia.
Julia and Iris rushed back to the car. Julia pulled out her phone, scrolling through her contacts until she found the number she hadn't dialed in years.
Who are you calling?
Iris asked, her brow furrowed.
Mike.
Julia replied, her voice grim.
He's an old acquaintance, a hacker. We had a falling out years ago, but he's the only one who can help us now.
Iris's eyes widened.
Mike? The guy who hacked into your dad's company and almost caused a scandal? You haven't talked to him in 5 years.
Julia nodded, hitting the call button.
I know, but desperate times call for desperate measures.
The phone rang a few times before a gruff voice answered.
Julia? What do you want?
Mike, I need your help.
Julia said quickly, explaining the situation.
I have some CCTV footage and I need you to identify someone for me. It's urgent.
There was a long pause before Mike sighed.
All right, send me the footage. But this better be worth it.
Julia sent the footage and waited, her heart in her throat. After what felt like an eternity, Mike called back.
Okay, I cleaned up the footage as best as I could. The guy you're looking for has a distinctive tattoo on his neck. It's a rose. I don't know who he is, but that tattoo should help.
Julia checked the time. Only 20 minutes left.
Thanks, Mike. I owe you one.
You owe me more than that.
Mike said with a chuckle.
Good luck.
Julia hung up and turned to Iris.
We need to find this guy with the tattoo. He could be the father.
Iris's eyes lit up.
I think I know where to start. There's a tattoo parlor nearby that's known for that kind of work. Let's go.
Julia and Iris sped through the streets once again, this time heading towards the notorious tattoo parlor known for its edgy clientele. The parlor was tucked away in a dimly lit alley, its neon sign flickering ominously. Julia took a deep breath, steeling herself as they approached the entrance. Inside, the parlor was a chaotic mix of buzzing tattoo machines, loud rock music, and an eclectic array of artwork covering the walls. The tattoo artist, a burly man covered in ink, looked up as they entered.
Can I help you, ladies?
He asked, raising an eyebrow.
We're looking for someone with a rose tattoo on his neck. Do you know him?
The tattoo artist scratched his chin thoughtfully.
Yeah, I know the guy. He comes in here sometimes. But I haven't seen him today.
Just as Julia was about to lose hope, she saw a familiar figure at the back of the parlor, talking to someone. It was the mysterious man she had bumped into at the hospital, and there, peeking out from under his collar, was the telltale tattoo.
Iris, that's him.
Julia whispered urgently.
The guy from the hospital.
They watched as the man finished his talk and walked out of the parlor. Julia and Iris followed him, keeping a safe distance. The man climbed onto a sleek motorcycle and revved the engine, ready to take off.
We need to follow him.
They hurried to their car and followed the motorcycle through the winding streets. The man led them to an isolated warehouse on the outskirts of the city. He parked his bike and entered the building, looking around suspiciously.
This doesn't look good.
Iris said, her voice shaking.
What do we do now?
We need to talk to him. Maybe he knows something. But be ready for anything.
They got out of the car and approached the warehouse cautiously. As they entered, the air was thick with tension. Suddenly, the man emerged from the shadows, holding a baseball bat and looking every bit as dangerous as they feared.
Who's there?
He demanded, his voice low and menacing. Julia stepped forward, her hands raised in a gesture of peace.
We just want to talk. Please, we need your help.
The man narrowed his eyes.
You followed me here? Not a smart move.
Before they could react, a group of rough-looking men surrounded them, grabbing them and covering their heads with burlap sacks. Julia and Iris struggled, but it was no use. They were quickly overpowered and dragged deeper into the warehouse. Julia's heart pounded in her chest as she tried to make sense of what was happening. The smell of dust and oil filled her nostrils, and she could hear muffled voices around her. Panic set in as she realized they were in serious trouble. After what felt like an eternity, the sacks were removed, and they found themselves in a dimly lit room. The mysterious man stood before them, the baseball bat resting on his shoulder. He looked them over with a mix of curiosity and suspicion.
All right, ladies.
He said, his tone slightly more relaxed.
You've got my attention. Now tell me why you're following me.
Julia took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves.
We're looking for the father of my baby. I think it might be you. We met at Club Infinity a few weeks ago, and, well, things got a little crazy.
The man raised an eyebrow, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of his mouth.
Club Infinity, huh? That was a wild night. But I meet a lot of people. Why should I believe you?
Julia felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment.
I don't have any proof, but I remember you. And the tattoo on your neck. Please, we just need to know the truth.
The man sighed, lowering the bat.
All right, let's say I believe you. What do you want from me?
Before Julia could answer, the door burst open, and another man entered, looking furious.
What the hell is going on here, Lucas? Who are these girls?
Lucas, the mysterious man, shrugged.
Just some curious cats who followed me here. They think I might be the father of this one's baby.
The newcomer glared at Julia and Iris.
You two have no idea what kind of trouble you're in. This isn't a game.
Julia swallowed hard, her fear growing.
We didn't mean to cause any trouble, we just need answers.
The man laughed humorlessly.
Answers, huh? Well, you won't find them here. Take them away, boys.
Before they could react, Julia and Iris were grabbed again, their heads covered with sacks, and they were led out of the room.